Hello traders, this is my morning wake up video and looking at range expansions for today. And I think we are going to see some potential critical areas in the market, actually their trading zones widening up today. I'm not saying we're going to get a major correction, downward shift, because we do have the Chinese talks next week. But I do think that we are due for a range expansions starting today and a little bit of a dip in the markets. Okay, and I'm going to start with the futures, and then I'm going to look at some of these major sectors. I'm going to look at my major global indices and major U.S. indices too, and then I'm going to check out the four top areas, in my opinion: the financials, bonds, energy, and transports. And I'm not going to cover semiconductors because they've already expanded their range. They've been running pretty hard, especially after Skyworks yesterday. So that one there, we already have an expanding range. So these are the ones I'm going to focus on for range expansions. To start the day, I'm going to talk all. We do have a significant event happening in the forex markets. We are breaking out of this downtrend on the dollar. So we are getting a strong dollar coming in to the session. So that's most likely going to be negative for crude. Not always, but generally. And if you look at your FX markets on your euro, US dollar, you're getting a flip side. You see this candle? See this trend line I have right here? This is right here, right now, is the first time on every one of these touches that we've had a breakaway gap away from this trend line as of today. So that signifies to me that this is a different change of tone in this weakness in the euro, and there's a strong likelihood for continuation. And our oscillators do have plenty of room for further downside. So, I mean, it's still early in the move, but it is a very good sign that we are breaking the pattern in our forex. And if you go over here and you look on the 1 hour chart here, you can see exactly what's going on here. It is just completely imploding here. Look at this right here at this moment at 4:30 in the morning. I mean, it's at the lows of the day, and basically it's got this 20 SMA, and it just it has all week long the euro just been dropping like a rock. The next major thing, change of character, I wanted to point out here, and that is our VIX. And going into the close yesterday, I was telling everybody in the chat rooms, this is the time to get long the VIX. Well, look what's happening. We are getting a responsive bid in the VIX, which may or may not last today. I have a pretty good feeling that it is going to last. Come Friday, the cloud is actually turning to the bullish side on our VIX on the 1 hour chart. So we are above our 20 SMA still, and above our cloud. And so this is a potential bullish setup. I'm not necessarily saying we're going to get a major bid in our VIX, but it's something to be aware of, that there is a change of technical character in the VIX coming into this morning's session. Okay, and if you go with the trade on the VIX, as you can see right here, we are back in contango with the VIX contracts, and that means the longer dated contracts are generally priced, well, with the exception of next, 13 days out. Well, no, we're still a little bit of backwardation going on here. This next, for the next 2 weeks, it looks like we still have some heightened volatility and priced into these options. So just keep that in mind. We're not completely out of the woods yet on these markets. So seeing this right here and seeing how low the active front month contract is, very easy pop up to these levels, knowing that this situation still exists for the next 2 weeks. The number 2 volume for the morning session on the futures, that would be your crude contracts. And as of yesterday, the cloud did turn bearish as a wide cloud on our 1 hour chart. Looks like we were catching a little bit of bid here. Uh, I thought it was going to be a little bit lower than this when I pulled it up, but we right now we are trading right at the 20 SMA. I think this is going to fade, and we're going to be retesting yesterday's lows to today in the crew with the dollar strength. I think it's going to weigh on crude oil with a combination with the cloud setup on the 1 hour chart. So just keep that in mind. I do think we're going to have responsive selling at the open, with crude being a major laggard in the markets today. Okay, in the global markets, our Nikkei, we do have range expansion in the overnight session in our Nikkei. We had this really nice tight consolidation for the past 6 days, and as of today, we are rejecting. We got a nice little squeeze going on here, and we rejected that on the open, and we're holding up here at this trend line. We still seem to be holding in place here, but something to keep in mind, we do have some expansion going on, so that suggests a little bit more fear setting in the Nikkei in the overnight session. And the early morning hours here, the DAX is down again. It's trying to recover a little bit the morning session here. We're near the day highs, about a 0.5% lower. It looks like we were over a 1% decline there around 9:40 this morning. So right when the markets opened, it was at the lows of the session, it looks like, catching a little bit of bid right now. And if you look at this on your EWG, that's your Germany ETF, another 0.5% here, that's going to put you right back at the Friday close, or right next to the Friday close. So we are officially, even at these this high in Germany right now, we are likely rejecting all the over inventory for the week on Germany above the Friday close. So just keep that in mind, showing some relative weakness here in the German markets. Okay, two things I want to point out here. We have the same, this is the highest volume of the day, and this is our 10-year bonds. We are testing this trend line once again like yesterday. We came up to it yesterday and we rejected it. Well, we're already testing it again today. We didn't give hardly anything back. And what's different today, we have a Bollinger Band squeeze situation going into the open, and the 20 SMA is right near that trend line. So if this thing wants to get started, it would not take much for this thing to really start taking off this morning. I just want to point that out, and we have already in the pre-market tested that trend line, and we are holding right there inside that candle. So lots of risk that the bonds might see a parabolic move above this trend line, because typically once it gets above this trend line, it takes off. So I just wanted to point that out. I mean, all kinds of risk that we're going to see an expansion in the indices to the downside in the early hours of today. By the end of the day, it might be back to even, but I'm just saying a lot of downside potential for the morning session. Okay, I wanted to start with my XLF because the bonds are in such a situation. Yesterday, we had a bid back in the bonds, but the financials did not recover. I just wanted to point that out. I mean, the bonds kicked back up into the close, but the financials stayed sold off for the day. So this, for a long time here, the financials have been trading with the bonds. And seeing that divergence yesterday afternoon, that was a warning sign to me. Now look what we're seeing on a 1 hour chart. Major compression situation. So just keep that in mind. And right here, right now, we are trading below, right at the 20 SMA. Okay, so just keep this in mind. We have all this pent up energy with this compression situation, and it's even compressing even more going closer into the open. Okay, and all this over here, this is accepted value for this week for the XLF, and we are trading above what is what last week's auction judged this week should be value for the week. So we've been putting in higher prices um, outside of last week's value. So coming down is not out of the cards one bit. So just keep that in mind. This is a bullish cloud underneath, so I'm not saying jump in and load up on the put side. I am saying coming down and doing at least a retest of the cloud today is very much in the cards for the financials. Our transport's very bullish pattern, and we are above value again. Build it out for 2 days here up here at these higher distribution area, and for the past hour, if you notice, we are trying to push down below all of the morning inventory and part of yesterday's inventory. We are trying to resolve to the downside. And the 20 SMA is right here. So we start breaking at 20 SMA, things could really start moving here. We do have a little bit of compression going on, but it's not nearly as tight as what we're seeing on our financials. Okay. Our SPY, very bullish pattern, still above our 20 SMA, but right at it. So just keep that in mind. It wouldn't take much at all. Basically, if we start marking fresh lows for the day, we have broken our 20 SMA. So, and the markets can start rolling over. So just keep that in mind, how close we are to this 20 SMA. And we've tested 2 days now the weekly market maker highs, and it got rejected 2 days in a row. And so far this morning, they don't seem to have much appetite to be pushing it to the upside. So we'll see what happens here. Like I said, it's not nearly the compression that I would like to see for a driving force to the down, a major driving force to the downside. So, but this is the past 2 days volume. You see all this volume up here, and we're right down here. We are outside of this volume distribution zone, which by the open, it could be right back up here again. Okay, so we'll see what happens, but right here, right now, the 2-day volume looks like it's getting rejected. So we'll see what happens by the open. And then if you go to your Qs, similar situation, still not getting the real tight MA squeeze like I would like to see. Basically, what I'm thinking, if we get some consolidation today, tomorrow this thing will really be squeezing hard for a much bigger move in the markets, in my opinion, to the upside or downside. I don't know, but really, it looks really like that we are going to set up for a consolidation day sideways, from what I can tell here. But yeah, similar situation, totally rejecting the value for the past 2 days on our Qs. And I tell you right now that NXPI, it's a semiconductor, they had really bad guidance that came out in the overnight session. And so that's just something to keep on your watch. I think you're going to see a lot more continuation to the downside on that particular stock. But yeah, us being right out here at that 20 SMA at these price points is something to be a little concerned about. So just keep that on your radar, if you would please. What's going on here? This chart's getting a little messed up. Let me check something here. And if you have your overnight session on here, you're actually inside the cloud if you're using your overnight session. That's one of the things I was trying to keep off there. It kind of just gives you a false read on your cloud if you use your after hours action on your charts. And then I'll finish off with the IWM. We are testing the overnight, the cloud. It looks like. Darn it, never fails. There we go. Very, very, very tight consolidation on our IWM. So basically, if this market starts to fall apart, which we are testing the market maker high from last week right here, right now on the tick. So if you're going to short anything in this market, IWM looks like where to be placing your bets. You know, but we are inside of the weekly values. So IWM didn't pop up above and consolidate. I mean, that's just something to keep in mind. But this really tight consolidation. So basically, because it didn't pop up, we're getting a much tighter consolidation range for the IWM. So I just wanted to point that out, and very tight consolidation. Similar situation. 3 days of consolidation now. So we've got a very extremely tight consolidation on our diamonds. So this is another one that can very easily fall out of favor here. So just keep that in mind. Our diamonds on our RWM, both very tight situation and could get an explosive move to the downside if markets continue to sell off here. Okay, that's all I'm going to say this morning. Twitter is on tap today. I just know Facebook and Snap went to the moon once they released, and I'm not so bullish on Twitter. But if the whole space is popping up, I mean, I guess Twitter's going to pop up with it, and that could put a bid in this market. So that's why I don't really want to say too much to the downside until we see the results out of Twitter. Good luck and good trading.